Hi, everyone. Welcome to Analyze Your Trade, episode number 20 for January 23rd, 2018. Tonight, we will be discussing your trade ideas. We've had almost 70 people over the last few days have submitted up to 5 symbols each. And I've put together the list, which you should be seeing on your screen right now, that we're going to talk about tonight. So my name is David Kosmeter. I'm the creator of Timing Research. And I developed this show with Dean Jenkins of FollowMeTrades.com, but he's off this week, and I have Matt Buckley here to moderate. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to him.
Thanks, David. Always good to be the B team and to get called in when he's out. Now, he's a great guy. You guys have a great show, so thanks for inviting me today. And ladies and gentlemen, we got a couple 500-pound heads. Good to be working with the Mike and Mike show. We got Mike Pisani of AlphaShark.com and Michael Filighera of LogicalSignals.com. So Mike, we'll go Mike and Michael. How about that? Mike from AlphaShark, bro, why don't you give the attendees a little bit of your executive summary, your background, and what you do for AlphaShark.
Hey, thanks, Matt. And David and Michael, it's nice to be here again. I love this show. So for AlphaShark, I'm one of their moderators there. I'm one of the options specialists, and I've been trading now since just right around the financial crash. I've been through a couple of these cycles now that we've had, and we were just talking a little bit about how we're kind of in this, feels like the late stage of a bull cycle here where things are just starting to take off. And what I do is I follow the option flow. And for me, the option flow tells me not only where they're rotating into, but it tells me the sentiment of the market and what's going on and how the market really feels about things. And, one of the things I'm noticing right now, guys, is that, they're hedging the hell out of the indexes and buying the individual stocks. Well, when they hedge the hell out of everything, they very rarely get a big pullback because then they'd have to pay all these guys out. So they don't want to do that either. So you want to go to AlphaShark.com. You can sign up there. We have a trading room live with Andrew Keene, and I also have a little service there. I do my own thing through Smart Option Trading, where I do real-time option flow on private Twitter, along with daily setup videos and a nightly recap. Again, thanks for having me on here, and look forward to tonight's show.
You bet, Mike. And Michael, give us a little bit about your background and what you do at Logical Signals.
First, I'm Michael Filighera. I am with Logical Signals. It is my own website. That's one that I started. I began trading in 1979 here on the Pacific Exchange in San Francisco. On the options trading floor, I've traded options here in San Francisco. I've traded in London traded option market, Amsterdam, Germany, where I got my big introduction to electronic trading or computerized trading, and that then brought me back to San Francisco, where I went back to the floor actually for about 4 years, and then went off floor and began to just make my shift from being a pit trader to being a screen trader, and where I continue to trade. I do focus somewhat on futures at the moment. I kind of like the idea of not carrying a page full of positions that need to be tended to and watched. Which isn't to say that I don't. I still carry positions, but they're what I call my core positions, and which is kind of like you're long one, short one, and you're not getting out of either one, etc. On my website at the moment, I'm revamping how I want to do business, and I'm leaning more towards moving towards coaching and talking and dealing more with people on a psychological level that I think all of us get affected by at one point or another. And so it's working together with some other long-term traders that I'm friends with and helping people get over a lot of the blocks that may have prevented them from returning to being profitable or just getting more consistently profitable in the marketplace.
Awesome. Yeah, exactly. It's a great point, Michael. It's funny when people say, I don't need a coach or anything like that. It's like, do you guys not understand? Tom Brady's got a quarterback coach. Tiger Woods has a swing coach, a putt coach. The best of the best have coaches. They need somebody to bounce ideas off of, or red team. I call the process red teaming. So that's good that you're moving it into coaching. Okay, folks, real quick. My name is Matthew Buckley. My call sign's Whiz. You guys can call me Whiz going forward. I earned that call sign flying the F-18 Hornet for the U.S. Navy for about 15 years. Graduated from the Navy Fighter Weapons School, which many of you know is Top Gun. Hence my big marketing department when I started Top Gun Options 8 years ago. Taught myself how to trade equity options back in the early 90s, 91 to be exact, down here at Naval Air Station Key West. And, started just applying. I kind of looked at trading as a form of combat. Somebody was going to win and somebody was going to lose. And, why the hell wouldn't I apply the same damn things I was using, in a fighter jet? Short story long, returns were awesome, and ended up doing some work for a company, one of the largest vol arb firms in the world, equity options vol arb firms called Peak Six Investments up there in the Chicago Board of Trade. Was the founder and CEO of the Options News Network when I was up there. Helped build Options House, the retail brokerage, and also helped them build a vol arb hedge fund. I kind of got sick of Chicago winters, and moved down here to Fort Lauderdale and Boca Raton, where I've been ever since. So that is moi, and we'll talk a little bit more about TGO in a little bit. But gents, this is I think David was in some of my live trade briefs recently. Amazon, MGM, JP Morgan are all positioned. I'm going to have a blast talking about these. But Mike, why don't you kick us off, my friend? Looks like a lot of the attendees tonight wanted to talk about Amazon. And what's your take on the Death Star, so to speak?
It's funny because a lot of the names on here are just like, we're in blue sky country. So you're looking at these. So this is my chart of Amazon. I haven't touched it now for a month. Right? And look at that wedge. Since it broke that wedge, this thing has just taken off. And we talked about liking it there. And I had a nice couple trades on it. And I haven't touched it now since I think it broke 1250. I think that's the day I got out of it for the last time. And if you're still in it, you raise your stops up and you keep going with it. But if you're not in it, you're not initiating up here. I mean, this thing is just screaming hot and it's been an unbelievable move. But I mean, I cannot imagine what they're going to have to deliver on earnings coming up very shortly to maintain this level here. I mean, from last earnings, we were what, 940-ish, 960, just after the purchase of the Whole Foods market. And now we're at 1362. I mean, really?
It's the gift that keeps on giving, isn't it?
It is, but I don't even, it's funny. I don't even look at it anymore. It's like, when I tell people what I'm trading, and this name is not even on my radar at this point, unless it's for a cute short. And maybe tomorrow it's a cute short if the markets come in, but it's not a law.
Interesting. Michael, what are you thinking about the Death Star? This is going to be good.
Yeah, I hope so. I think to kind of answer what Mike was saying, I think that they're going to have to come in above $2 to support anything close to this level.
Yeah.
Anything outside of that, well, then we've seen the top. At the moment, I think the last time we were on together and we discussed Amazon. And I think we both agreed that it would likely get itself above 1200. I thought it would meet a lot more resistance at 13. Mm-hmm. Obviously, that's not going to go. But what I'm seeing is that when they come in and they're going after FANG, they're going after Facebook, Amazon, Netflix, and Google. And with Amazon reporting next week, I believe it's going to be next week. On the 3rd.
Yeah.
It's an anticipation of that. But driving the stock up $35 today is just, I think, because it gets real thin. It's like, as Mike was again pointing out, it's like, hey, if you're not in, don't. If you are in, lift your stops, put them, really protect your profits here, because I believe when this turns, it's going to turn on a dime. But I think it's going to go probably 1450 to 1500 before.
Okay, I just want to add one thing. It's $60 above the 8-day moving average. Can you say extended?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Really. Yeah. No, extended is.
You know, it's interesting. It's funny because at times like this, especially in stocks like this, I call it the hopium. You just got to pull out the hopium and trade the market you have, not necessarily the one you want. So some Amazon news recently. It really, and it's funny because Michael, you were saying the fangs. I did Amazon. What's E-Trade actually called these guys? It's called a It's not. It's retail. These guys call it retail. I don't think it really isn't a tech stock anymore. When you're talking about a company that is leasing its own airplanes to take on, who is it? Carnegie? Yeah. Who the hell did the oil thing? Like, why am I just owning the oil and the oil rigs? Why don't I buy the railroad, the lumber? That's what these guys are doing. They're taking out a UPS or a FedEx. They're doing the Whole Foods thing. It really is kind of a world domination. Over the weekend, they opened the first fully automated grocery store. You just walk in, you grab all your stuff, you scan your phone, and you leave. But this is to Mike, to your point. So to me, this isn't a FANG anymore. I removed it from calling it it's still FANG, but ditch one of the A's and leave Apple in there. This is what is worrying about me. And we dumped Twitter the day before. I'm not usually this good, but January 11th, I said, that's it, guys. I'm done with Twitter. Facebook. And Zuckerberg came out the next day and more or less, stepped all over his sword. Twitter did the shadow banning thing a week and a half ago. Take a look at the chart of Twitter. What did that thing do when they found out that, hey, if we don't like your speech, we're going to shadow ban you? And then a rat leading the sinking ship today, the COO said, I don't want to be the skipper of this place. And so Amazon rolled over today and said, hey, we're going to start.
Twitter, but we'll debate that one later.
Yeah. Okay. So Amazon's going to give to Massachusetts, the tax officials, their third-party seller data. So, and this is totally against what I believe. And Trump was touting this the other day, saying, I want to put an internet tax in place. In my opinion, the FANGs are about to run out of speed. Again, we'll debate Twitter here in a little bit, but the Facebook, the politics, and a bunch of other stuff are worrying me. However, having said that, we put on a little bit of a pre-earnings trade today, a bull put spread, taking a look at the what do we look at? Here it is, the 1300. So Michael, you were talking about that psychologically important 1300 level. We did a 1300, 1297.5 bull put spread. Risking about $5,000 to potentially make $2,500 because I really do think this 1300 level is kind of mentally. I don't know, mentally sufficient, whatever the hell that is. So we kind of hovered around it. It was kind of support resistance. And then we had this 2.7% rip your face off rally today. So I don't disagree that it's overextended, but we usually get in hindsight is usually when we say those things. So you look at this kind of 2-year chart of Amazon. I mean, holy crap, man, you just can't. So for me, I'm short-term bullish. This was a kind of a pre-earnings trade. This expiration is the 2nd of February. And you're right, Michael, you're correct. It was February 1st is the earnings. So I told all my users, this ain't an earnings trade. This is kind of Amazon ain't gonna implode before earnings. I think it'll stay in a holding pattern. So anything else on Amazon, fellas, Mike or Michael?
No.
All I got to say is I think we should add Boeing to FANG.
Fangba.
Fangba.
Yeah.
Or Bang.
Fangba.
Think out Facebook. Bang.
There you go. You get no you get no problems with me on that one, man. I couldn't agree more. Okay, what is our second one there? It's Netflix. So Mike, why don't you obviously that was in the news the other day. What's your take on Netflix? Okay, moving on.
I mean, you look at this thing and you say, okay, so this is where you come out and you say, my worst trade in the last month was on Netflix. So there was a big call buying when it was down around 185, 190, and I bought a bunch of calls on it, and I took most of them off at a profit. And I left 5 January 205 calls on. And they got trounced. They came rounding back down, and then they moved the earnings date out the week after expiration, and they drained the IV out of them, and they went from like down 48% to 80-something% in like 2 hours. I'm like, I wasn't paying attention because the stock wasn't moving, so I wasn't looking at the options, didn't care.
Oof.
And so when they got down about 50%, I said, "Hey, it's not going to go any further. You got big resistance where my red line is there. Is here. I'm out." well, that was the dumbest move of the century. So that was the only real loss I've taken that that really hurt in the last 2.5 months. Here, so earnings were nothing special, guys, but the user growth, the subscriber growth was ungodly yet again. Disney's trying to come out and compete against them. I still think Disney is going to get their hands completely around Hulu at some point and take control here. But now you have to kind of wait. If you're still in this, I would have taken most of my profits today and gotten out of this thing. Maybe left a small runner. And now you trade versus that gap. You have two pivots. It's the bottom of that candle of today's candle, and the top of today's candle. And now you trade versus those. And, if it breaks below, you short into that gap. And if it breaks above, you take it long and go forward. And that's all you can do here at this point until it establishes a couple of days of rest and see what it does.
Michael?
I'm actually in total agreement with what Mike just said. I think that's a very intelligent strategy for taking a look at what this thing has done. What I find interesting, though, is the initial reaction to the earnings pushed the stock, and they held it, and they held it, and they held it way up there. And then suddenly the New York opening came, and it's like, oh, no. And then they just, did what they did. Still closing up nicely on the day. And I think what they're putting in a lot of, lack of a better word, forward guidance in terms of, that Netflix intends to continue to produce original content, which is what they credit their increase in subscriber on, and the fact that like Stranger Things and et cetera, the different programs that they produce and put out there, the success of those shows short-lived. So I really like that strategy. If we got to give it a couple of days just to see how this all is going to balance out. But I agree, if it breaks the bottom of the candle from today, you go short. If it breaks out on the top side, you go long. But you've got to play it very tight, and you've got to be very careful, because
it can't just be a momentary break. You got to give it you got to make sure it holds. Not like a let a candle close, like a 5 or 15 close.
Yeah. Agreed. And I think also, and this goes over to you, Matt, that I believe that there's going to be a lot of play in the options. So you're likely going to be able to get some really decent options positions on, and really work it and play this thing out. So and we're just at that decision-making point. And then once you've got some confirmation of what direction this is going to go, you're going to know what your position has to be. And
exactly. So
directly to the stock, I prefer options on this one. They're very liquid, and they move.
Oh yeah, the vol swings right. Yeah, this is its own Death Star along with the Amazon. So, Mike, I'm going to borrow kind of all the bad you said about Amazon, and I'm going to cut, paste it, and then drop it into Netflix here. I'm not a Netflix dude. I don't Netflix and chill. I don't understand it. I don't think I've watched Netflix once, so I'm going to punt on it more or less. I mean, jokingly, I get it and everything like that, but the other content providers, I think, Mike, you mentioned Disney. This thing. I think Amazon's over at Ski Tips. I mean, I get the business model, but holy crap, at least Amazon, Amazon has its own content provider, right? I mean, they're coming up with their own movies and their own kind of Netflix stuff. So it's your standard, Amazon, I'm telling you, it's the Death Star, man. They're in food, they're in content, they're in air, moving cargo and freight. I guarantee you in a couple of years, they got airborne, essentially aircraft carriers, with drones flying out of them. It's nuts. So I'm not a big Netflixer. I just got to tell you, just pure chartology. Like I said, I'll take Mike's Amazon dumping and cut and paste it and drop it in here on Netflix. But I will, man, I'm going to love this next one. MGM, Mike, what's your take on one of the sin stocks here?
And when earnings ignited the whole sector, I mean, huge long-term breakout on these charts, right? These things have been sideways forever, broke out, running to highs here. When our MGM earnings are coming up, I think they're the next week or the week after, and I know they're not that far off from here at this point. And I think we get Maku numbers again real shortly as well. So you got to be a little careful with these. To me, this is not nearly as extended as a lot of the other names and stuff we're looking at tonight. It's still run a lot, it's up. but it just broke out of this huge base from above 34. If it could hit the 8-day, a little pullback, you got a little bit of a tired topping candle today, right? That's a little bit of a reversal candle today that, we went above yesterday's high, reversed, and we closed on the lows here. I would watch and see if you can get a reversal candle up off the 8-day if they come and they meet there. And then I would try to go long it again, but I would not stay in this thing at earnings. I know Wynn had fabulous earnings, but you're really playing with fire here, trying to stay in these names in earnings. You have no idea what they're going to do.
Yeah, I'm not I tell people all the time who try and trade through earnings, I'm like, do me a favor, and when you trade through earnings, and when you're right on the earnings and you lose money because your trade goes down or whatever happens, you'll never do it again. How many times have you guys been right on an earnings trade, quote unquote, and then the stock doesn't do what you wanted it to do?
It's the implied move. It's like we were talking,
Exactly.
Michael and I were talking about this beforehand tonight. Like, the market makers all just got destroyed on Netflix.
Yep. Yeah. Oh God, yeah.
Did you notice the IV on Google and Amazon and Facebook and everything today in BABA?
Correct.
For the earnings, they start jacking it because now they don't want to pay out, so they're going to make
it
higher again.
Exactly. That's exactly right. That's a great way to put it, Mike. I mean, this game, it's not for rookies. These guys aren't idiots, and market makers. Well, speaking of MGM, casinos don't look the way they look because they give away money. So market makers don't, and these guys don't give away money. Michael, how do you feel about MGM?
I've actually not traded MGM since it was Resorts International by itself. But
wow, that's dating yourself, man. I used to partner for Resorts in the 80s.
You're absolutely right. And it wasn't. And get this, the options weren't exclusive here on the Pacific.
Are you serious? Oh, I didn't know that. Yeah, Merv Griffin. Well, I remember old Merv.
That's how far I'm dating myself.
Yes.
So it looks like to me that we're moving into earnings, like we all said. And again, I don't like to put on earnings plays, but I think that this thing really, if we just take a look at the big picture is like this thing went from $100 to $1 during the financial collapse, literally $100 to $1. And so doing a 38% retracement back up is totally normal. And now it's taken it 9 years, but nonetheless, it's sitting right below, which I think is going to be a real stubborn resistance at 39.65.
Mm-hmm.
Now, so I'm thinking that's where they're headed. They might get there for earnings, but then I think it's cooked.
Just let me add real quickly. I looked it up while we're here. Earnings is February 20th, so we have about a month yet to earnings.
Yeah.
Yep. So I think they're going to push it. On a really strong push, they might try for 50 because there's not much in between in terms of resistance.
Yes, I like to tell my members at TGO that I wear two suits. I wear a flight suit. I tell you how I feel about a trade as an American, and God bless America. And then I wear, I'm joking. I'd kick my own ass if I ever did this, but I wear a $6,000 Armani suit as Gordon Gekko. Here's where we got into MGM. So here is one of our nation's worst tragedies right there. I mean, I don't even want to get into it because it still sickens to me this day. And it sickens me even more that the government, our outstanding FBI, which is turning out to be a political arm of the last administration, is still, I heard, what was it yesterday, the sheriff in Las Vegas said they might be charging somebody else. So, but here's where we got into it. So it pulled back. We did a long call diagonal right here. And this thing is up almost triple digits. For a long call diagonal to be up like triple digits in 4 months is nuts. So we got in a run on MGM from 30 to up here, almost up to 37.5. And then we traded some bull put spreads as it kind of leveled out here before this breakout. We did a couple iron condors. And then currently, where is it? Right here. We have on a Feb 9. So kind of, Mike, as you're saying, earnings, I put on a pre-earnings trade, the 34.5, 34. And this thing's I think we're up at 80, 90% already. So we're risking $5,000 to potentially make $2,500 right here. And, 34.5 is this is why I put it right here. It was because it was kind of the support resistance area. And then it's just off to the races. I like Wynn. I got to be honest with you. I was reading an article on CarMax. They did their annual President's Club event there like last month, and they said it's a ghost town. So Mandalay Bay might have some problems. Not too many people want to party across the street from what essentially is a cemetery, but the trend is your friend here. And who's our buddy? Who's our pal? JP Morgan. What did JP Morgan say last week about MGM? Not that one right here. MGM resorts to pop 33% as a compelling value play. I won't bore you with the details, but JP Morgan ain't no village idiot, and they're throwing some money behind MGM as well. That's where was it? Right here was that this gap move was the MGM call. So by JP Morgan. So I like it. I think especially with people getting more money back in their paychecks, God forbid, starting in February, they ain't going to be paying down their credit cards, man. They're going to be spending it. I plan on spending it. So I like the sin stocks in this case. So anything else on MGM, fellas?
Not for me.
All right. What was after that one? Let's go with the GLD. Mike, what do you see in the GLD?
It's funny. I was trading gold in late 2016 and I'm sorry, most of 2016, and I took a massive hit on the night of the presidential election because I was long a lot of gold, and I was like all excited because I'm watching the pull and gold's going through the roof, and then I got up at 2 o'clock in the morning and I saw the results come in. I'm like, why is gold getting killed?
Yep.
And I haven't really traded it since, and mostly also because there's been a lot of other things to trade. So I usually look to trade gold when I can't find anything. So looking at it here, and I've looked at it a couple times. I mean, we've had this big run off that dip, right? That dip down to 117.50 level was just an absolute golden buying opportunity at this point. And it's just doing what you want to see it do. It's riding the 8-day. It keeps reconnecting with it and exploding off of it, right? So, you have this nice little move here where it went up, came to the 8-day, went back up. And look at this. We reignited off of it again today to here. You have this high area right now of this 128, which I think is really in play. I mean, doesn't mean it's going to get there tomorrow, but I don't think it's going to be that long before it gets there at this point. You got to watch RSI into something like gold. It's a commodity. And unless the world is falling apart, these things don't like to get very overbought. But as long as it doesn't get too hot, you can keep coming back to it. And I'd be buying this thing off the 8-day until it fails now at this point.
Let me ask you a quick question, Mike, because, I get this question a lot. When people say, do you use the GLD as a hedge, as a portfolio hedge?
No, because I don't think it's not a real hedge. To me, if you want to hedge your portfolio, you either take puts on one of the indexes like the SPY or the IWM especially, which is more volatile. Or me, I have March 50 calls on the VXX, which are getting close to worthless. I've had them for a month and a half, but I can care less because I still have 2 months left. And I'll let that be my hedge because if volatility spikes, it's going to explode.
Correct.
To me, gold is not a hedge. It's a commodity. It's
yes. Well, I just wanted to make sure. And well, Michael, what do you ever use the GLD as a hedge at all in your portfolio, or what do you use GLD for?
No, I don't. And the reason is because of its dollar exposure.
Well, explain that. And this is dollar GLD a potential pairs trade?
Yeah, depends on how you want to pair it, but yes. I would rather use, well, GLD, I think you can use that. But if you're trading gold, physical, then you got to kind of switch and go to the euro.
Okay. Yeah, I was just, some people do the dollar up, gold down type of pairs trade. I was just wondering. But back to the hedge. So you don't use it either as a hedge?
No, I do not.
But I do keep a little bit of NGD. We were talking about this today. I don't want to interrupt, but NGD is a gold miner, and I've been having this in my portfolio for a while, and I'm red on it, and I don't care. It's my little bit of, I always want to have a little exposure to this. And I was telling Michael before the market opened, they were buying, I'd never seen call buying on this in a long time. And today they were buying the Feb 250s, the March 350s. I mean, they were selling puts against it. They were going nuts on this stock today, and that's not something you normally see. So that tells me that, we've been seeing buying in ABX, we've been seeing buying in GG, some of the other miners, but they came after this one with a fury today. So that tells me that they're expecting something here. Something's going on. We haven't seen this in forever.
Right.
Here's what's interesting. I don't trade the GLD that much anymore. Mainly, and Mike, you alluded to this. Since it's a commodity, it's not like oil as a commodity. Here's what I mean. rebels in Libya blow up, refinery. All of a sudden, oil's catching a bid. Iran, Saudi Arabia, they start, doing whose button's bigger. All of a sudden, we're at 150 oil. So to me, the GLD or even gold, there's no CEO, there's no earnings, there's no PE. You can't eat it, you can't fly on it, you can't live in it. I guess the best you could do with the gold is put it in a pillowcase and, bring it into prison and beat people in the head with it. So it's an emotional trade. And I remember trading this a couple times, some end of the world potential trades with the nuke strike or this or that. The reason I backed out of the GLD is when something ain't doing what I think it should be doing, I'm wrong. It's doing exactly what it should be doing because that's what the price is, doofus. So I got out of the GLD a couple of years ago because I'm just like, hey man, when I get a clue bird flapping on my shoulder and I go, okay, this just is starting to be a mystery to me. I just kind of I don't do the GLD anymore. Michael, do you trade GLD at all or?
And because as I mentioned prior to the start of tonight's show, I basically have two core positions. I'm long gold and I'm short bonds.
There you go.
Yeah, and I've had those for quite a long time.
Mm-hmm.
So I will use GLD to just kind of to hedge or prepare for what I think is going to be a downswing, or okay. You lift your hedge and trade it that way. So that's how I use GLD. Again, because I'm basically in the future, and that's where the core is, I very much easier. But
true.
With the GLD, I think that this is getting ready. I think you really do need to be long it. Now, understandably, I don't disagree with what you said, Matt, about the fundamentals of gold, but I think we need to bear in mind that gold is really the only product out there, storehouse of value,
true,
long term. And that's why you're going to find that people, particularly people outside of the United States, will buy this thing.
Mm-hmm.
And now is quietly, but I don't know how quietly, China's been like scooping. And then this is outside of, India just is always an everyday buyer of gold.
Yeah.
Indonesia, we're going to step in and buy gold always. But I'm even seeing, I don't want to give Mnuchin too much credit, but I'm seeing that even our own treasury is starting to kind of gap there a little bit. And as long as I see that, I just think that I'm watching the dwindle, drop, and coming off, and that's good for gold. So again, I'm long gold. I would be long the GLD. I would use options.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of ways. Again, there's just too many ways that you can come in and be long and take advantage of volatility. If you happen to be trading GLD, be looking at puts,
okay,
and selling them because you want to be long.
Yep.
So, gold bug. I believe gold continues to go up. There's too much uncertainty. There's too much uncertainty in the politics of.
We didn't brief this beforehand, and I guess I should have. I was going to brief if any. Didn't you do this last time, Mike? You said if anybody mentions the B word, we all got to do a shot or something.
No, that was something else, but I thought it was pretty funny.
Yeah, so
I'm going to ask
because
it's a good point. It's an excellent point because there is a big coordination between the two.
Yep.
Well, then you guys lay it on everybody. Mike, why don't you go first with the B word and the GLD? As a store of, what piqued my interest was when Michael said as a store of wealth. I'm like, oh boy, here comes waiters and waitresses asking me how to trade Bitcoin. So go ahead, Mike.
I've been having so many people telling me that Bitcoin is the new gold and this is where you're going to go for safety. I'm like, really? This is a safe haven? Are you freaking kidding me?
Yeah, last time I checked, North Korea ain't hacking into gold, into my gold bars.
So, full disclosure, I actually think that Bitcoin and these currencies are about to rip and take everybody who sold down here and make them cry, because when everybody starts, we were talking about this beforehand. Goldman Sachs has been screaming that this is the biggest bubble ever. Meanwhile, they're building their own cryptocurrency exchange and their own block. They're coming out with their own blockchain technology. So they're just trying to keep everything down. I think that, when you start calling something a bubble, it goes a lot further than they expect. We had a 50% correction. I'm of the opinion that we're going to see this thing rip to a new all-time high in the not too distant future. Mm-hmm. And I don't trade the currencies. I trade some of the blockchain names. That said, this is not a safe haven. This is probably the most dangerous place you can put your money right now. It's like, why don't you just go to a casino and throw it on the roulette table and just pick a number and see what happens.
Yeah. Well, that's my advice. People are like, I want to invest in Bitcoin. I'm like, okay, what amount of money would you sit at the dining room table, put it in the middle, and light it on fire while drinking a glass of wine and enjoy it? I don't, I'm like, that's the amount of money you put in a Bitcoin. If you have that amount of money where you wouldn't mind lighting on fire and drinking a glass of wine while watching it burn, invest in it. Michael, what do you think?
I don't disagree with what either one of you are saying, but I just want to toss in that being inquisitive, I go out and I talk to millennials. Mm-hmm. Millennials that kind of came up with this. It's the millennials that came up with blockchain. It's the millennials that kind of figured out how they're going to do this trade. And I think that depending on, of course, you got Bitcoin, but then you got Ethereum, there's another one out there, all that are really doing well. I do not disagree that this thing could turn around and rip everybody a new you-know-what and make you wish that you didn't sell it where they sold it. Mm-hmm. I'm hearing is that they're taking it offshore. Mm-hmm. They're buying it and they're putting it offshore. So they're not really caring. In fact, as it drops, they'll go buy more and they put it offshore. So instead of taking their dollars in terms of, in dollars, they're doing it for that doomsday play. And that's where the correlation between gold and Bitcoin kind of come eye to eye, because people will go buy gold and go put it somewhere, because they feel that the world's coming to an end and everything's going to crap, and you got to have something to be able to go out and buy the food and pay for your house, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
But I hear you, Michael.
What they're doing.
The scary thing to me is they're doing this on their credit cards. They're not opening cash accounts. They're using their credit cards to buy this stuff.
Yeah. Some are, but we do have a certain percentage of people that are going to go out and buy Amazon on a credit card.
I mean, that's like, I got somebody who told me he just did a reverse mortgage on his house and he just threw the money into the market. And I'm sitting there going,
yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
well, let me.
So many different types of investors. We have so many different types of people. Like we were discussing, Mike. We got people that are coming in here at the top because, oh my God, I've missed out. I got to put my money somewhere.
Yep. And
they toss it into the market. And then you got them. It's like, well, if I put my $5,000 in, I got $5,000 on a credit card. Yeah, I'm gonna go all in because I'll make it all back and be able to pay off the credit card and still have a profit.
What could go wrong with that? Nothing could go wrong with that, right?
Can't go wrong with that. But whatever their thought process, what we have to understand is that there are other people who are taking cash, who are taking currency and buying Bitcoin and buying the other one and moving it offshore.
That makes it even more scary for me. When you move it further from regulators, now you're really in Indian country here. Let me give you a quick brief, let me throw my flight suit on real quick. The reason, a couple of years ago, what did North Korea do? They hacked into Sony Pictures because Sony made a movie making fun of their dear leader. And Mike, you and I talked about this like maybe a year ago on this program about the whole Heinz ketchup. Remember, like 2-3 years ago, 3G Capital and Warren Buffett bought Heinz ketchup. And I think in Heinz options activity was like one call every other leap year. There was zero options activity in Heinz. And like the day or 2 days before the transaction, what happened? 80,000 calls were bought. I mean, come on, people, seriously? Well, when you're an idiot like the People's Republic of China's 12th floor department, that caught the attention of the SEC, the FBI. It was a Goldman Sachs account, short story long, traced it to Switzerland, trail goes cold. It was, I know for a fact, it was China. So here's what I'm getting at. Very long road to a short house. Bitcoin there's going to be thousands of cryptocurrencies. When you say the word crypto, when you compare it to gold that's sitting in my safe guarded by an AR-15 and a lot of other small arms around my house, you ain't going to get it. We have told, I know for a fact, North Korea, China, Russia, and other people, Iran, that would do us harm. If you F with our financial system, if Americans wake up one day and everybody's bank account is zero, that will be considered a first strike on us, and we will retaliate with nuclear weapons. We have told North Korea this. We have specifically, I know for a fact, told them that Bitcoin doesn't count. So here's what's scary. If you guys, did you see a week and a half ago, North Korea hacked into Bitcoin, and it didn't make super waves, but I'm telling you for a fact that if North Korea wants to, they could wake up tomorrow and put a zero in everybody's Bitcoin account, and I'll leave it at that. So I'm not, like I said, the amount of money that I would drink champagne and watch burn on my table and me go, that's awesome, is the amount I'd invest in Bitcoin.
You want to trade these coins, trade some of these blockchain companies, and you know what?
That's
take a look at IBM, who has actually, this may be they're saving grace because they have great blockchain technology.
This might be their act 2. You're exactly right, Mike. Yeah. The thousands, that's what's funny. When I started explaining to people, I'm like, Bitcoin is just one, folks. If this thing actually gets airborne, there's going to be literally thousands of cryptocurrencies. There ain't thousands of there ain't thousands of gold. It's,
right.
They're down in Chile, digging, a mile underneath the ground, risking people's lives to try and find more of this stuff. So I know this was a tangent, but please be careful, ladies and gentlemen, if you are going to trade the cryptos, because as Mike said, when I got waiters and waitresses doing what you said, running up their credit cards, and guess what happens, folks? If it implodes and they owe 10 grand a Visa, do you think they're going to pay 10 grand a Visa? That ain't going to happen. I wouldn't. So then you get a whole ripple effect. But anyway, all right, let's.
You mean ripple? I mean, like the other.
There you go. There's the shot. What's that, Michael?
I said, very good. I'm in agreement with you.
All right, let's do this. Love the next one, man. J.P. Morgan. Mike, how do you feel about Jamie Dimon and his crew?
Other than his unabashed bashing or back and forth flim flam on Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies, actually,
we hate it, we're buying it. We hate it, we're buying it. Yes.
I love the banks here. I'm not in JP Morgan at this point. I got out just before earnings and didn't get back in, but I am long Citibank 80s, June 80s, and Goldman Sachs 280s, both of which are doing very well here. I like the banks. I think they are set up for a nice run here. They're a little heated, they're a little extended, but if this market's going to keep going, the banks are going to keep going at this point. And hey, we had this huge tax write-offs, and nobody batted an eye of how many billions of dollars the banks wrote off on earnings, and nobody cared. They were like, okay, no big deal. So I like I like the banks here, and it's hard to buy it here, but look at how nicely it's holding the 8-day, and it's just flagging up here for another move. Since we broke above that wedge, we're ran to a new all-time high. I would not be surprised if this thing is up around 140 towards the end of the year.
Wow. There you go. Love it. How you feeling, Michael? The banks, or specifically JP Morgan?
I don't want to be your nemesis here, Matt, but I happen to think that JP Morgan is the Death Star.
You're my sister, you're my soul animal, or whatever it's called. No, man, this is my number one financial. So testify, man. Go ahead.
Well, I actually think it's well run. It's making money, and they're doing all that. But I think that what's behind it needs to be, tar and feathered and rode out of town. I think it's extremely overextended at the moment, but I believe that it has a little bit left. And I'm doing this technically, so I'm not going on any fundamentals. I agree with what Mike said. I'm agreeing with what you say, Matt, in that the banks are in a good position right now. The banks, they scooped an incredible amount of money that is not going to go out to the employees. That's not going to go out to new jobs. It's going into the pocket of the bank, and they're going to have to do something with it. So I think that the run continues, but I believe it's a little bit overextended. And is 140 a possibility? Absolutely.
More buybacks,
Absolutely.
more dividends.
We've got to pull in a little bit here.
Yep.
And then we'll see what happens from there.
Well, I mean, today, JP Morgan announced they're going to raise, they're raising everybody's pay by 10%, and they're hiring and opening, what was it, 100 branches? I mean, that's stupid. That's the Apple announcement. 20,000, we're going to create 20,000 jobs, pay everybody an extra $2,500. So Goldman Sachs up until last year was my Death Star. I loved it. You know, you couldn't beat the giant vampire squid. Lloyd Blankfein's an idiot. When the CEO of Goldman Sachs spends more time trolling the president on Twitter than he does running his FIC divisions, you know, fixed income, currency, and commodities, you suck. Now, we all know Jamie Dimon's running for president. Not this earnings call, the last one was the third quarter. The dude, it was his stump speech. This time, he said he ain't no way he's running because we're, you know, to the moon, Alice. So obviously the earnings sucked, but it was a predictable suck. They pulled forward all the crap to fourth quarter earnings, and they just said, hey, man, we're going to knock the cover off the ball because of this tax reform. So I love it here. It could be overextended, sure. That's all rearview mirror, but more. JP Morgan's my gold medalist in the financials. Morgan Stanley is my silver medalist, and this is going to even shock me coming out of my mouth because the former skipper is a felon, and so are 5,000 of their employees. But I like Wells Fargo, guys. More people.
Really?
Well, here's why. I hate Wells Fargo because, like I said, the old skipper. You know, I don't know what went on in the engine room of my aircraft carrier. Well, guess what, skipper in the Navy, you're fired too. Of course, he left with a golden parachute, and then 5,000 of their employees are essentially committing felonies with identity fraud and making up fake accounts for bonuses. Other than that, Mrs. Lincoln, how is the play? It's your retail bank. I like a Bank of America a little bit better just because it's got America in it. Damn it. But Wells Fargo is my bronze medalist. But since we're talking about JP Morgan, love me some JP Morgan. Jamie Dimon, he's a limousine liberal, and he rubs me the wrong way. Doesn't matter. He's a good skipper, and we did a Jan 20 long call. We closed a Jan 18 long call diagonal last month for 45 grand. It was a year and a half, you know, not some sexy weekly options trade. It was a 15, 16-month trade. But, you know, hey, man, you buy some deep in the money 80 Delta calls. You sell the front months when it's not on a tear. And you wake up one day and a year and a half later, it's up, 40, 50 grand. So we just put on a Jan 20 JP Morgan long call diagonal. And we're also trading the front month with some bull put spreads. We just put one on last week. I forget where it was, but I like it. Good talk on the banks, guys. And don't forget, we'd even bring this up real quick, Mike, is interest rates. Don't forget about, when interest rates are high, stocks will die.
We're expecting another rate hike, next month? Yeah,
next month. Yeah. I mean, I think we're going to get 3 this year, and that can only help banks. So, that's another arrow in its quiver.
And let me add one thing. The big guys out there have been buying calls on Wells Fargo hand over fist now for the last month. Long-term, short-term, all over the place.
That's right. That's a great catch, Mike. Didn't even think to say that. There is some, kind of back of the house call buying and accumulation in Wells Fargo. So I think the tax break's gonna help that mom and pop bank out with auto loans, small business loans, and stuff like that. So, all right, let's move on here. Let's try and get 2 more done. I got to be honest with you. I don't even know what this is. SRPT. I just looked it up, sir.
Oh, I do.
What is it, Mike?
This is a biotech company, and I had options from last week. Somebody went out and bought the February 75 calls when this thing was trading at 60, and I looked at that and said, somebody's expecting a buyout. This was just after the Juno, just as the Juno rumor came out with Celgene. Yeah. I'm like, somebody's expecting a buyout. I grabbed a bunch of those. I'm like, yeah, these are all or nothing. Guess what? They were up 80% today. I sold them. I'm like, I guess it's not an all or nothing. I'll take 80% and get the hell out of it.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nice trade.
So, look at the stock. It's had a nice move. It's a little extended, but look at the weekly. All it did here is it just came back up and tested and just broke above its all-time high on the weekly chart. So this thing, it has a great cancer drug. It has some great drugs in it. It has a good pipeline. It's been firing all cylinder. Yeah, it's a biotech. You do not fall in love with these things, right? Because you got to know when data is coming out, and that's the problem. If you don't know when data is coming, you could be in big trouble, right? You wake up one morning, your stock's down 15% because, oh my God, they had a phase 3 drug that missed that you knew nothing about.
There you go. Yep.
But if you want to trade it, this is one of the better ones. But at this point, you got to let it pull back to you a little bit. You don't go chasing it up here.
Michael?
There's nothing I can add. Mike has said it all right there, and I am in total agreement. I think you got a great trade on the options trade, and that's what I recommend. It's like if you're gonna watch particular stocks and you're gonna watch options movement, that's how you do it. You go in and you see that, hey, this doesn't trade like that. They just put something on. What's up? And then you can base your own trade off of that. Just coming into this company right now, no. And I think exactly for what Mike just said and what you also said, Matt, it's a biopharm company.
Yeah.
You've got to really pay attention to the drug trials, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 trials. Yep. When are these reports coming out? What's going on? Because if you just take a look at that same chart, Mike, that you had up, that weekly chart, you can now see when it did well, when their phase 3 trial didn't work out and it just dropped. And that's what it's looking like. The setup is happening right now.
That's exactly it. Yep. You see those big down engulfing candles, right? They're massive.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And
they're going to destroy you. If you're in common, you'll be destroyed.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm going to be quick on this one. I just don't trade biotechs. I mean, I remember a day at Peak 6, famous last words, one of our traders, $4 million loss in, what the hell was it called? Immunogen or whatever. It passed phase 1 trials. It passed phase 2 trials. It passed phase 3. Hey, Whiz, there's no way in hell it's not going to pass phase 4. Down 80% in the blink of an eye. He lost $4 million and was escorted to the door. Well, that's wrong. I bought a port when I was flying Hornets out of El Toro Marine Corps Air Station in Orange County. I bought a brand new Porsche with ImClone. Everybody remember that in the mid-90s or 90s? When was that? 97? Yeah, down in Irvine, California, man. I bought ImClone. I bought a Porsche with ImClone, and then I never did again. So I'm not a biotech guy. I believe what both the Mike said about it, but folks, just be careful, man. Remember my buddy. There's no way in hell it won't pass phase 4. And there's goes $4 million. All right, fellas, let's wrap up with lucky number 7, the OIH. Mike,
how do you not like this chart? I mean, oil's at a how big high? More than a 52-week high. I mean, it just keeps running.
Oh, yeah.
So XLE has been seeing call buying. OIH has been seeing call buying on it. Look at Schlumberger's earnings were good. Halliburton's was good. I mean, they're coming after APC. They're coming after Rig. They're coming after ExxonMobil. The last 3 or 4 sessions. It's holding in. This one was actually a little worse. The XLE only dipped. Every dip to the 8-day, and the XLE has led to an explosive candle. And the OIHs went a little lower. They went down. They went down halfway to the 28-day before it reversed intraday and came back up and got to the 8-day. I like the whole sector. I think this sector has a ways to go this year. I don't think you just buy this, though, with short-term stuff. I think you just kind of sit in this stuff in your portfolio right now and go, in full disclosure, I'm long Will, I'm long Rig, and I have some options on Rig at this point. And I'm out of ExxonMobil at this point, but I'm looking to get back in, but they have earnings coming, so I'm sitting in the
Fredo, you broke my heart. You were singing, you were testifying. I'm an ExxonMobil guy, so I love
I love it. No, and the call buying today was off the hook, but they have earnings coming, so I've gotten out of the way.
The reason, and while I'm in long, we stopped trading the front month on ExxonMobil just because our earnings are coming, but we have a Jan 20 on, just like the other ones. It's printing money since that dip, since the near-death experience. When we had the last near-death experience, what's his name, Gartman, oil will never be above $10. That dude needs to go back to his village. They miss him. But anyway, ExxonMobil trimmed their sales to be profitable at anything above $35 in oil. So when we're plumbing these 60s with oil, man, I just think ExxonMobil, Iconic. I don't think you can miss with these. Michael, what do you think about the
it's a laggard?
The odd laggard, yeah. I long buy it, but I think you got to position it. So I agree with Mike. You got to position it. It's not something you just kind of go effortlessly to go, yeah, I'm just going to throw this into the old portfolio and see what happens. I think you need to position it properly, but I think that there's a very high probability that it's going to go up and at least test 35.
And I got to be honest with you, throwing the flight suit back on, last month, of course, it's not super news over here, but I follow it. Is in Yemen, the Houthi rebels backed by Iran, they lobbed 2 ballistic missiles into Saudi Arabia, one towards the capital at Riyadh, and the other one towards a palace. And the young prince that's up and coming and clipping everybody, he said this is an act of war. So we get an Iran, Saudi Arabia this year. Mine's bigger. We wake up one day and Iran strings a bunch of mines across the Strait of Hormuz. You're looking at $200 oil. So, I mean, I don't think you can go wrong with the energy sector here. This is the reverse of like the Solyndra and the solar, the solar crap 2 years ago. Oil's back, baby, and I couldn't be more bullish on the Texas tea. And Mike's right about the OIH, the services, Chesapeake, NOV, all the other ones that are, or all the big ones that are in OIH. I think they're just, they survived their near-death experience a year and a half ago, and they just, I mean, shit, man, Schlumberger, I remember reading a news story, like, we just clipped 15,000 people. I'm like, wow, that sucks. 2 days later, we just clipped another 15. So, I think they survived the near death, and now they know to trim their sails appropriately. So,
and the big thing is the big guys are coming in and buying the dips. Any weakness in these names, it doesn't last, and that's usually a good sign of something. They come in, they buy with volume on any kind of weakness.
Correct. Right. That's a great point. All right, fellas, I'll tell you what, let's finish on time, on target, man. Mike, let us know how we can get a hold of you over there at the Alpha Shark, man, and how we can follow you.
So I'm at alphashark.com. I'm one of the moderators there. We have a chat room, and I do most of the options work. We all do options work there. So you can come over to alphashark.com there and join us over there. And if you want, you can catch me on Twitter. You come over to my Twitter feed. It's Options Mike, at Options Mike here. And I post videos out there often. I post lots of charts and news and stuff. And I put a lot of stuff out there every day that I don't charge for, that I think might help people. Because, ultimately, guys, it's about learning how to trade and what we all do together. So thanks, guys, for having me on. I appreciate it. I love this show. I love being on with you guys, and see you soon.
At Options Mike, man. Hey, I just followed you. There you go. Whiz check 6. Michael, how about you, my friend?
First of all, thank you. This was a lot of fun. Mm-hmm. Thank you both. And thank you, David, for including me again this week. Michael at logicalsignals.com is the best way to get a hold of me. Again, I'm shifting. I do have a trade room, but that trade room is going to be used for coaching. So I want to do, I'm going to be watching somebody's face. I'm going to looking at what's going on when they're pushing the button and they're having to enter in a position, and good or bad. And so the trade room is shifting what it's going to do. I'm going to begin to write again. And so you can be looking for that and giving a little bit more analysis, but again, more geared towards futures and adding options. But I'm going to give you a shout out here, Matt. If you really want to trade some options, folks, get on Matt's list. And these announcements you guys put out are incredible. And if you take them, you're going to make money. If you don't, well, that's up to you. But I get them. And it's a lot of fun to be able to just say, yep, like that trade, putting it on without having to go through a lot of rigmarole of like, well, who's this guy and what did he say? So good shout out for you, Matt. I really do enjoy your alerts, and I think that they've been profitable.
Awesome, my friend. Again, I certainly appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Real quick, guys, as Michael said, I run Top Gun Options. I take it. It's interesting because every once in a while I lose some potential, members because people are like, you're politics. I'm like, if I didn't trade what I believed, I'd be broke. And every pullback, if you look at a chart of the S&P 500 in 2017 was what? It was political. From the failure that the Republican clown car that couldn't repeal Obamacare under a Republican, to the fire and fury comment from Trump, to he's a racist, to the Comey memo, every pullback last year was political. It wasn't a Fed announcement. It wasn't holy crap China. It wasn't. It was so. we take a look at the fundamentals, we take a look at the technicals, we take a look at options, flow, everything that Mike does as well, and we have a good time. So I appreciate that, Mike. We're in the middle of a full throttle week. We actually did a welcome aboard brief last night at 8, and then we did a primary live trade brief today where we put it on that Amazon bull put spread and that JP Morgan long call diagonal. Tomorrow we're going to do accelerated retirement. Tomorrow night some vertical spread training, some weekly options. So if you want to join me for the rest of the week for free, we just open up our doors like maybe once a quarter to folks. It's really easy. Just head to go.topgunoptions.com/joinft. That means join full throttle. That's what we call our full week of live trading and training. Can't talk anymore because then it will be 10:01 Eastern and I will have gone over by a minute. And David, you know I like to be on time, on target, my friend. So thanks for having me back to host, and Mike, the Mike and Mike show. It was a great time hanging out with you guys again. So David, thanks, my friend, and let me throw it back to you.
Yes, thanks, guys. Great show. Just for everyone watching, be sure to hit the YouTube subscribe button to get updates on future shows. Also, Crowd Forecast News and Analyze Your Trade will be back next week. So Crowd Forecast News will be Monday, January 29th, 1 p.m. Eastern Time. And the next episode of this show, Analyze Your Trade, will be January 30th, Tuesday, 9 p.m. Eastern Time. You can always get the live links at TimingResearch.com/live. And just want to thank my guests again for tonight. Mike Pisani of AlphaShart.com, Michael Filighera of LogicalSignals.com, and Matt Buckley of TopGunOptions.com. Thanks, guys.
You're welcome. Thank you.